Across different centuries and even on different continents, there have been some truly infamous female serial killers. But what I find really chilling is when the motive isn't some fit of rage or a crime of passion, but something way, way colder: profit. Today, we're going to dive into the stories of women who treated murder just like a business. This quote right here, it just gets to the absolute heart of it. These weren't chaotic, messy sprees. Nope. These were calculated, methodical plans carried out by women who looked at other human beings and saw them as assets to be liquidated. Their ambition wasn't about fame or power in the usual sense. It was about financial security, built on a foundation of bodies. So how did they pull it off? Well, they took roles of trust, being a caregiver, a wife, a landlady, and they turned them into these lethal enterprises. These women weren't just murderers. They were entrepreneurs who developed a shockingly effective and, frankly, terrifying business model. We're going to be looking at 4 key cases today. We've got Belle Gunness on her Indiana murder farm. Then there's a whole syndicate of women over in Victorian Liverpool. We'll talk about Amy Archer Gilligan's deadly nursing home in Connecticut, and even Janie Gibbs, a church-going mom in Georgia. They all seem so different, but they're all united by that one single chilling ambition. The engine that powered these deadly businesses was almost always the exact same thing: life insurance. A financial tool that was literally designed to provide security for loved ones got twisted into a death warrant. It became a simple contract that incentivized murder. £112. Now, that was the insurance payout for a single victim of the Liverpool syndicate, a young woman named Maggie Jennings. And yeah, in today's money, it doesn't sound like a fortune, but back then, oh, it absolutely was. And here's the context that makes it all click. In the 1880s, a laborer was earning less than £1 a week. All of a sudden, that £112 payout isn't just a bonus, it's life-changing money. We're talking more than 2 years' wages for a regular working person. For the cost of just a few pennies in premiums, the return on that investment was immense. And the scale could get so much bigger. Belle Gunness, who was operating in the early 1900s, is estimated to have profited around $52,000 from her victims. In today's terms, that's well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. See, she wasn't just committing murders. She was running a highly profitable, if totally gruesome, operation. So the motive was money. Simple enough. But what about the method? Well, for these women, the weapon of choice was almost always poison. It was quiet, it was intimate in this really terrifying way, and most importantly, it was so easy to disguise. Their tools of the trade were just chillingly common. Belle Gunness, she often used strychnine, which is basically rat poison. It caused these horrific, violent convulsions where the victim was conscious and terrified the entire time. It's a brutal choice. But the others, they preferred arsenic, which they often got just by soaking flypapers, and its effects were way more subtle. And this is exactly why arsenic was the perfect weapon for a patient killer. The symptoms, stomach pain, diarrhea, numbness, they looked almost identical to diseases like cholera or dysentery, which were rampant at the time because of poor sanitation. A doctor would see a dying patient and just diagnose a common illness, never even suspecting that poison was the real killer. Okay, so you have the profit and the poison. That's 2 parts of the equation. But the third part, and maybe the most important, was deception. These women were masters of disguise, hiding their murderous plans behind a carefully crafted mask of respectability and trust. This quote, which was said about Janie Gibbs, it says it all. How could anyone possibly suspect the woman who donated thousands of dollars to the new church building? A pious, generous, church-going mother was the absolute perfect camouflage. This public persona made her crimes seem almost unthinkable to everyone around her. Amy Archer Gilligan's nursing home was just a masterclass in this kind of deception. Her business plan was chillingly simple. First, she'd market life care for a flat fee of $1,000. Sounds like a great deal. Then, after a pretty short stay, she'd poison the client. She even relied on the fact that embalming fluids also contained arsenic, which would hide any evidence. And before the body was even cold, she'd have the next paying customer lined up. It was literally a conveyor belt of death. And this required a kind of chilling intelligence. The women in the Liverpool syndicate were mostly illiterate, and yet they understood the complex insurance system better than most people. They knew every single rule, every regulation, and they expertly manipulated insurance brokers who were so eager to get commissions that they would help falsify the paperwork. Belle Gunness's deception was built entirely on loneliness. She would place ads in newspapers targeting Scandinavian bachelors, promising this comfortable life on her beautiful 40-acre farm. She had the farm, the pigs, the chickens. Yeah, she just conveniently left out the part where her suitors ended up buried in the pigsty. But, no deadly business can last forever. Eventually, the masks slip, mistakes are made, and the authorities start to close in. And as these operations unraveled, they left behind both justice and some absolutely fascinating mysteries. The crimes of the Liverpool syndicate had a massive impact. The government was so shocked by the scale of what they called the poison epidemic that they created new laws. One of the most important is this principle of insurable interest. Today, you can't just take out a life insurance policy on some random stranger. You have to have a direct stake in their life. And that law exists as a direct result of these murders. The end for Belle Gunness is just shrouded in mystery. A fire destroyed her farmhouse, and down in the basement, authorities found the bodies of her children and one adult female. But here's the thing, the adult body was headless, and it was significantly smaller than the stout Belle Gunness. So the question has lingered for over a century. Did she die, or did she actually get away with it? And the mystery was fueled 23 years later when this photo surfaced from California. It showed a woman who had this striking resemblance to Belle, but notice the weird pose, right? Her hands are hiding her face. Some people believe it really was her, living out her days under a new identity, having faked her own death in the most gruesome way imaginable. And then there's the truly tragic twist in the case of Janie Gibbs. Now, while she did collect insurance money, her defense lawyer revealed a shocking motive. A doctor had wrongly told Janie she had Lou Gehrig's disease and was going to die. A fundamentalist, she decided to send her family to heaven ahead of her so they could all be reunited. It's a horrific act, born from a terrible medical error. This quote from a criminal profiler really forces you to look deeper. The easy answer is they did it for the money. But when you look at the methods, that brutal use of strychnine, the act of poisoning your own children, the sheer repetition of it all, you really have to wonder, was it just a means to an end, or did the killing itself become a compulsion? And that's really the question we're left with, isn't it? I mean, we can understand greed, but can we ever truly understand the mind that sees another person's life as nothing more than a number on a balance sheet? Was it a deadly business plan, or was it a dark obsession that just happened to pay really well?